So will the president be able to gain any ground while he is in Europe this week? To talk all about it is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gobb, kind enough to join us this morning. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you for your time. When it comes to Russia, Ukraine, you can really see Trump's mentality towards Putin shifting over time. We all remember that big blow-up he had with Zelensky in the Oval Office when he was frustrated with Ukrainians. Now his frustration has really seemed to shift more towards Putin. They've been having these talks, Steve Witkoff, other members of the administration, where he essentially says, yeah, Putin says nice things. He'll say great things to your face that he wants peace, but then he'll go and shoot a bunch of ballistic missiles into civilian areas at night. What do you make of the president's frustration starting to seemingly boil over with Putin in Russia?
Well, I think it's well warranted to be frustrated at the entire thing right now, because this is just a war that's going nowhere. And both sides, frankly, Putin and Zelensky, say things, and then they continue to make the war worse through their own actions. And in some cases also, our European allies are pushing for the continuation of this war as well, through either arms sales or just through language and the message that they're sending. So it's understandable to be extraordinarily frustrated. One risky thing we're doing now is telling Putin he's got 50 days until sanctions, and he's making a lot of movement in the East, and a lot can happen in those 50 days too. He may actually be able to achieve everything he wanted to in those 50 days, which is why he's content to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I mean, this war is just such a quagmire. Been going on for several years now, mainly for a line in the east of the country that moves, a few hundred yards a day or so. Are sanctions enough to get Russia to the negotiating table? I mean, what else can the U.S. do from our perspective to try to force Putin to make some sort of a deal here without, obviously, we don't want to go down the military road?
Right, yeah, there's no reason whatsoever for NATO troops to be inside Ukraine, and that's been true from the start. But sanctions on Russia could have a limited effect because Putin has planned on this war or expected this war for years. And he's put things in place monetarily, through manufacturing, through building allies that would allow him to survive a conflict, even though this has gone on a little longer than expected. The challenge will be, who are the secondary tariffs and who would they be effective? Meaning nations who still trade with Russia, who take their material and then sell to others with funding that ends up still going back to Russia ultimately and funding their war machine. So it's going to be more than just sanctions on Russia. You've got to identify all those allies that are helping him skirt sanctions even when we put them on.
And while we have you, do want to get your thoughts on the other deal the administration's trying to reach, this one brokered between Israel and Hamas. Hamas this morning actually rejected President Trump's remarks on Friday. That's when he said Israel should, quote, finish the job in Gaza. This comes after ceasefire talks broke down once again between the two sides. Where do you see this conflict headed now? It feels like we're a hamster in a wheel at this point.
Well, frankly, I think this conflict is headed the same place I've always thought it was going to be headed from the beginning, which is we're going to talk to Hamas. We're going to do our best to make deals. We're going to try to get hostages back. But in the end, they're not an honest arbiter or anybody that you can actually deal with in good faith. So I think the end is going to be that you have to outright defeat and eradicate Hamas. And Gaza can only be fixed if Gaza is owned by somebody else. And I don't have the answer to who it's owned by. That can be a little bit complicated, but it cannot belong to Hamas or any of the elements that support them. They've shown their willingness to sacrifice people and destroy entire groups of people and economies in order to be an enemy of Israel, and that's really all they wanted. So again, this is just going to have to go to Hamas getting eliminated entirely.
Yeah, and the president has been talking about how difficult it's going to be to get those last couple of dozen hostages out from Hamas captivity, because to the president's point, he feels those are Hamas's only bargaining chips right now. I mean, for your perspective, if they give up those hostages, they got nothing left to exchange with, right?
Exactly, and that's why you're not going to let them or see them anytime soon, if at all. And that's unfortunate. It's just a military reality that we have to, maybe accept, but not like. But if they gave those up, they'd have nothing, and the end result would be the same.
Yeah. Well, Lieutenant Colonel, we appreciate your insight. Thanks for coming on. Hope you have a great Saturday.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.